Welcome, everybody, to the big show. We have a great guest today, Glenn Lundy. Lots of surprises, always a fun, insightful conversation.
Never low energy.
No.
Ever.
And yeah, really good. And then we're going to get you up to date on some things going on here in the office, and there's fun stuff in the news and much, much more coming up on this edition of Service Drive Revolution. So for our coaching and on-demand clients, on Thursday, April 24th, we have our virtual coaching meeting. And the theme is the art of being extraordinary. The art of being extraordinary.
It is an art form.
Yeah. Great customer service is high art.
Some are saying it's going to be the event of the spring.
Oh, everybody's saying that.
Yeah, I heard
all my friends.
At least
All my
300
friends are
people.
saying that. For sure. It's a big week here at the office.
Yeah, so
How much weight do you think you've gained?
25 pounds.
Yeah. So we have this thing we do here when it's your birthday. You get to pick what we have for lunch, and then there's a cake or a dessert or something. So the first day was pretty good because we had Mediterranean.
Yeah, and you could go no carb if you wanted to.
Yep.
And it was delicious.
Great place we love here downtown. Then the next day was sushi. It's impossible to do sushi without carbs.
Yeah, because all the rice and what have you.
And what was the dessert? The first one was like these crazy gourmet cookie things that are like a cross between a cookie and a cupcake.
I can't describe it, but oh my gosh, they
How
look
many
ridiculous.
different versions of desserts do we need now? It's like a cookie cupcake.
But we had all of them in the office this week.
And then the second day with the sushi, we had cake and something else.
It was cake, but then there was like an apple dessert of sorts.
Yeah.
Like an apple bake.
Then today we had pizza,
Chicken wings,
and tiramisu. I had no pizza or tiramisu.
I had no pizza, but I did have tiramisu, and I ate some chicken wings, and they were pretty good.
I had a side of meatballs.
How were they?
They were great.
How the heck is it? This is just an observation, but let's say anytime we order food and it comes to the office, if there is a mess up, it is always your order. Have you noticed this or no?
Oh, yeah. And also, I'm doing intermittent fasting. So, like, by the time lunch comes, I'm starving.
And you look at all that stuff you can't eat because,
I'm sitting there. So, like, the pizza was here at 11:30. My food didn't get here until almost 1. So I had to sit there and watch everybody eat pizza. And yeah, it is what it is.
Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for you.
I can't ruin somebody's birthday over that. So I ate a bunch of salad. I just kept eating salad. And then there was some cheese in the fridge and I snacked on that.
I had a piece of cheese today too.
I was dying.
Well, you're an oak, sir, because you didn't cheat at all. And there's 200 more birthdays to go.
The other thing that people missed was that we took our whole team to London. Which seems like a weird thing just to say, like, oh, we took the team to London. There were 11 of us, 12 of us.
Yeah, and I've never heard of anyone doing this, any company.
I would do it. I'm already thinking about the next place we're going to go. I think it had such a profound effect on our team atmosphere. Like, it brought everybody closer. I think it elevated all of our thinking, and it's going to show in our work like it already is.
I could not wait to get back to work.
Really?
Yeah, I walked in ready to go.
I wish I was going to stay another week. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely like the next level, I believe, for you is to have a place in London, because I think it's really good
Not
for
New
you.
York?
No, I think I'll do New York, you do London.
Okay. Like it.
But I really, I like New York better than London, but I definitely think London's a fit for you. And just watching you in your element and all the museums.
If you've never been to London, it's like a cleaner, more polite New York.
Yeah, with oodles of intention.
Well, just great. The art there's great. I don't think a lot of people listening to Service Drive Revolution care about art, but it
I think they
it
can
is pretty
appreciate it.
It is pretty special.
Oh yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can appreciate art for its excellence.
But everybody got a really good education. Like there's this tour guide there that I've used. Now this will be the third time I've used her. She's just incredible. And you see art, but when she tells you the story behind it and the context, where it sits in history, all the symbolism, it you know, it just means more. Like everything means more when there's a story.
And she was such a great narrator, and really the stories, like with anything, right? The stories just brought out the art.
I'm gonna say my biggest surprise, and then you say yours. I don't know what yours is. Do you know what mine is?
No.
My biggest surprise, and this is gonna be hard, but I'm gonna try to give it context. Is the English were really good at conquering stuff, and when you conquer stuff, you steal the art.
Yeah.
So they have a collection of art that is nuts. Like in the National Gallery in London, the collection is nuts. Like you just, and on top of that, like some of their art that happened in the UK is good, but arguably a lot of that really good stuff didn't come from the UK.
Yeah,
It
their
came from
best stuff is
Italy,
not the homegrown.
Dutch, right? Like,
Yep.
but they took advantage of the spoils, and so when you go through the National Gallery and then you go through Tate Britain, you're just going through all these paintings from like the 1600s, even older, like, and you are blown away by how those pieces of art were created back when, they didn't have, you couldn't go to an art store.
No,
Like, they were creating it as they made it. The technology was being developed. And by technology, I mean like crushing a stone to get a blue.
yeah, and remember when she was talking about like how rare that one blue was, and it's like,
The
like
blue paint would be like half the budget.
yeah, it was so insane. Yeah, so the fact that they inherited the art versus creating it on their own was something that really blew you away.
No. So when we experienced all that, and I'd never done things in the order that we did them, we went from the National Gallery, that's all old art. Then we went to Tate Britain, which is pretty much mostly old art, although they did have some cool Duchamp stuff there.
They did. That's true.
Stuff that I'd never seen before. Touring, though, it wasn't their permanent collection. Then we went to Tate Modern, which is like modern art. And the feeling amongst the team, how the modern art was like cheap and fast and like lacked depth, was the biggest surprise. That contrast between the two was my biggest surprise, that was so noticeable for everyone.
Yeah, connecting with the art at the first two was super easy. You had to work at the third one. That one time, we were there for 7 days. I interacted with so many English people. Not once the whole time I was there did someone come up to me like, hey, your accent's pretty cool. Like, apparently the American accent isn't as cool as the British accent when they're over here. Like, we're always nice to the English when they come over and they use their fancy accent. But they didn't like it at all. I thought you might laugh at that, but it's okay.
It's funny that you use your opportunity to make a profound statement on a joke.
All right, so that was my fake one, but my real one.
And you fought for the category that it falls into.
I might have exaggerated
a false
a little
flag
bit.
that it all fit into one.
So I did think it was like the surprise for me was our tour guide plus a couple other people, the way that they still like harbored animosity because we separated from them, the United States. Like there was an undertone of like,
we were on, our news is on their TV 90% of the
Yeah,
time.
we're the bad guys, I think.
Well, we're the star of the show, though. They're talking about us. They're thinking about us, and we don't think about them at all.
Yes. So that was very
Same thing in
interesting to me.
Canada. When you're in Canada, we're on the news there all the time, and we're thinking about ourselves.
My Canadian friends know way more about American politics than I do.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Same thing over there, though.
Yeah.
Like, there was more Trump and more of that. And their take on it is interesting because it's a little different than what we would get served up here.
Yeah, and it's all controlled. That narrative
Speaking
is
of the
all
news, what's in
controlled.
the news?
So we've got two things that I thought we could talk about. One's probably more just commentary than anything, but I thought it was interesting, and I've seen this trend happening. I'm sure that a lot of you have too. Is that somebody finally took Hyundai and Genesis to court because they keep cutting all the labor time, so they're being accused of underpaying dealerships for warranty work. And
no manufacturer would ever do that.
No, but I knew as soon as those engines got down to like a 5-hour warranty page, I'm like, oh, someone's going to take exception to this thing. So this has just been coming for a long time.
We used to know with BMW when the recall was coming, when they reduced the time and a part price went down.
Yeah,
there was a recall coming.
Oh yeah, it's like when you do policy at cost is what that reminds me of. So they're very interesting. Maybe the dealers will get a little more time out of that.
Subtle.
I think that, yeah, probably. But it'd be great if
somebody over there, and it's Korea, right? Somebody over there in Korea will be like, "Oh, you can't do that," and they'll be like, "No, you can't do that," and then they're like, "Okay,
let's give this guy a little check instead of writing a lot of big checks." That's what they're gonna say. And then the second thing, I was just curious. So the Nissan Honda merger fell through. Which I think we had talked on our last episode that we recorded a couple of months ago, is that we thought that might be a good thing for Nissan. Like they would be,
they need leadership.
Yeah. So that's what this is about, is that the CEO who was in charge of the merger at the time, and then it kind of fell through, he's gone, and now they've gotten a new person in there, a guy from Mexico. So I say more power to Nissan.
I'm rooting for you, guy from Mexico. Does guy from Mexico have a name?
El nombre es Juan Espinosa. Juan Espinosa.
Rooting for you, Juan Espinosa.
Oh, I like that, Juan.
Can you roll your R's?
No.
Okay. Well, let's get to our special guest today. Back by very popular demand, Glenn Lundy is an all-time favorite around here. Glenn currently runs the 800% Elite Automotive Club, a pioneer in the North American automotive industry, some might say an icon. He's designed a system to help dealerships that sell between 50 and 250 cars a month scale their volume and their profits quickly while increasing employee retention and creating a winning culture. He is a husband to 1 and a father to 8. He likes kids. And the host of the wildly popular morning show, Rise and Grind. Please welcome the famous Glenn Lundy, a big friend of ours and somebody we love hanging out and talking to.
Man, you guys are amazing, man. Thanks for having me. I don't know about icon level. I'm trying to work my way up to Chris Collins' icon level. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working on it.
I don't know. People still talk about the time you talked at our Top Dog event. And I still think about sometimes in the morning when I wake up to music, I'm like, oh, Glenn wouldn't like this. You're not supposed to listen to Metallica first. You shouldn't have Metallica be your alarm.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah, Glenn is the topic of a lot of morning conversation because it's like we just got to wake up like Glenn does and everything will be okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
hey,
so great.
Man, I'm glad I could be a part of your morning routines.
You're in my head for sure. So we share a lot of clients, Glenn, and your clients tend to be the ones that are talking about how to make things happen, and even in like the most difficult situations. But kind of tell everybody a little bit about the 800 Elite Automotive Club.
Yeah, Chris, we've been we've been working with dealers across the country now and Canada for going on 6 years now, and it's been quite the evolution. We've learned a lot along the way, and now what we do with our program, which is great, I took some advice from you early when I first started this company. You were one of the first people to give me some advice, and one of the things that you shared with me is you said, don't make your dealers sign long-term contracts. Instead, just make sure to continue to add value, and they should stay with you forever, right? We don't need to sit down and renegotiate contracts every year. Just keep adding value. And so I've always thought of that. And so our company has evolved quite a bit to where now I used to only work with owners and GMs, but now we have what's called a whole dealership solution. And so we work with salespeople, sales managers, finance managers, GSMs, GMs, and owners, and everyone's got to be on board with the program in order to make it work. So we've evolved to that, and it's been incredible, man.
Yeah, you do a great job. There's always a noticeable difference in your clients from others in the industry, and it's always refreshing. And there's always fun conversations whenever I go to your stuff. People are talking about how to make stuff happen versus what is happening, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense, man. This industry's been so archaic for so long, as you know, right? And it's run by, no offense to any of my friends that are in some of these places, but it's run by a lot of dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs keep trying to run the same playbook. And what I try to teach my dealers right out the gate is, you don't win in today's game with yesterday's playbook. That's just not how it works, man. The playbook has to adapt. It has to evolve. This is why the Raiders suck and have always sucked, bro. They're still trying to play this West Coast offense thing, and the game has changed.
Where did that come from? Are you a Raiders fan?
Buddy, I'm a diehard. I have been a victim of Raiders fandom for 40 years.
They have broke your heart. Just random conversation. He brings up the Raiders. What do you think about Pete Carroll?
Oh, I mean, this is part of the playbook they play. Let's get the oldest living human beings on planet Earth and ask them to coach our team and quarterback our team. Like, what is going on? It's nuts, man.
For what is it, $43 million a year?
Yeah. That sounds like a great idea, right? Let's get old guys and go play a young man's game.
If you could describe Pete Carroll in one word, what would it be? Dinosaur.
Dinosaur, absolutely.
He just proved your theory right.
So funny. I did not expect that.
And here's the thing: is he's actually younger than most of the people that work at NADA. So what do you think about that? Pete Carroll is probably a young guy.
Do you go speak at NADA?
No, they've never let me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've applied for 4 years in a row.
They send me invitations, but I won't go. No, the one time I went, I had tremendous turnout, and they're just the worst. They're the worst. Dave Anderson gave me some advice once. He goes, "You don't need practice." Like these 20 groups in NADA want you to go do all this stuff for free. They treat you terribly, and it's vendor on vendor crime, anyways. And then
no doubt,
you don't need practice. It's funny. Well, so. Just thinking about in the perspective of today's market, you work with a lot of, talented and untalented people, but what are the characteristics of the people that are succeeding right now in today's market? What do they have that separates them from everybody else?
Well, primarily they're able to let go. They're not cutting the end off the roast anymore. I'll put it that way. I don't know if you've ever heard John Maxwell tell that story, but he talks about being at a holiday and his wife's there and his wife's mom's there and his wife's mom's there, right? And his wife is cutting the end off the roast, and he asks her why. She gives this explanation. It doesn't make sense. Anyways, he works his way through the chain, and he finds out that the great-grandmother used to cut the end off the roast because during the Great Depression, she had a tiny oven. And now 80 years later, his wife is cutting the end off the roast because she has convinced herself, right? So the biggest difference between our dealers and as we evolve and grow in our relationship is this constant conversation about what are we doing in our dealerships because it's what we were taught to do versus what should we be doing in our dealerships because it's actually relevant and makes sense in today's day and age. So where do we need to quit cutting the end off the roast and how do we start cooking new roast, right? So most of the dealers that have the greatest success with me, they're usually either brand new dealers, like first time dealers, or they're third or fourth generation, and they've started to realize like, this isn't daddy's dealership anymore. And if I don't want to risk being the one that destroys the legacy, I better start doing things a little bit different. And so those are the ones that we have the best results with, the ones that are willing to throw the ugly baby out with the bathwater and start over fresh.
That's great. On the flip side of that, what are the mistakes that you see being made right now?
I would say, how long is this podcast?
Let's go back to the Raiders.
One of the biggest mistakes dealers today are currently making is, I'll give you three. The first is they still believe that the manufacturer has their best interests at heart. So they're still trying to live off new cars. They still think that if they can play these dealer programs, and get their little incentives and their carrots, that they can run successful, growing, scaling dealerships. That is a huge mistake. Manufacturers don't care. They don't give a dang. And you can't control things like inventory shortages, tariffs, all of this stuff. In order to really grow and scale in today's market, you have to understand used cars. That's the only thing that we can really control. So I would say that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is the standards and expectations that they have for their people were written in 1973.
That was one.
Right? These standards were written in 1973. I'll give you a perfect example. There is a handbook written by NADA in 1973 that says a car salesman should average 10 to 12 cars a month. How many sales right now are salespeople doing in this industry 50 years later?
10 to
12 cars a month.
Yeah.
It's crazy, bro. One car
We
every
haven't
3
gotten
days.
better.
You have internet, you have social media, the geographical boundaries are no longer in existence. And yet we still have an expectation and a standard of one car every 3 days from our people. So expectations and standards that are still based in ancient history is a big mistake that dealers are making today. And I would say the third biggest mistake that dealers are making is they are still playing the front end gross game and missing opportunities, turning away deals, not understanding that a profitable dealership is profitable in the service department, in the finance department, with doc fees, warranty companies. Reviews can add profit to your dealership. Like, it's Moneyball, right? Instead of trying to hit home runs all the time, we just got to get people on base. The more customers we can put through the system, the more profitable the dealership will be. So I would say those are the three biggest mistakes, and there's plenty more, Chris, but I'll wrap those up.
Yeah, those are good ones. How did you come up with the idea for the Rise and Grind morning show? How did that evolve?
So let's go back to another football experience. I'm an NFL guy. So do you remember when Colin Kaepernick took a knee?
Yes.
Where were
When
you?
he was with the 49ers.
That moment?
During the national anthem?
Yeah.
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 Oh boy, do
Right?
I got a lot of military in my family. It was a big deal.
It was a big deal, right? Colin Kaepernick takes a knee and the country erupts, right? Like, it's an explosion. And everything on social media was division, chaos, Black Lives Matters, military, America, patriots. Like, it was just nuts. And so I'm jumping on social media and all I see is division, hate, arguments, all of this stuff, man. And it really started to it started to eat at me. Like, it bothered me. It started to bother me. And I don't know when this happened in my life, but at some point in my life, I realized if something really bothers you, that might just be God's way of calling you to do something about it. So I had this this is really bothering me. So my first thought was, well, I can't fix it. I can't solve it. I can't make everyone stop being hateful and divisive. Like, I can't do that. But maybe, just maybe, I could create one little tiny space on the internet where it's only motivation, education, and inspiration, where there's no division, no politics. Everyone is welcome. All religious backgrounds and beliefs. Believers, non-believers, Democrats, Republicans, old people, young people, white people, black people, all of you, everyone is welcome in this little space for 30 minutes a day for a little bit of motivation, education, inspiration. So that was my way of kind of inserting myself into the narrative in a way that I felt like I could at least do something in a tiny little pocket, right? And so I started doing this show, man. I started doing it at 5:30 a.m. Back then. I don't do it at 5:30 anymore. I do it at 8:30 now. But I started doing it at 5:30 a.m. I have too many kids now for 5:30, bro. It's crazy. But I started doing it at 5:30 a.m. and now here we are. That was January of 2018. So it's been a little over 6 years. We've done over 1,800 episodes. It became a massive community. We've raised over $1 million for different charitable events. We've held events and all kinds of crazy stuff. But that's what started it. Was Colin Kaepernick took a knee and the country went nuts, and I wanted to make a difference.
Well, the thing I remember about that was in 2019 was when you came and spoke for us out here. And I don't know, you'll probably remember this, but the thing I was so amazed with is that you did that show must go on mentality, and you woke up and you did that podcast that day at 2:30 in the morning because 5:30 was on the East Coast, and he does it on the East Coast. But literally the dude wakes up at 1:30 in the morning to prep for a 2:30 podcast. I just remember that. I was like, oh, okay, so this guy's pretty committed to this thing. But you remember what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You're like, no, this is going to happen. It's going to go on. And I think you and I were talking about it, and you're like, yeah, the people need me. Like, I'm trying to build a thing. And lo and behold, you did build a congregation of sorts. And I always think that that's fun to go through and on the podcast and then look at some of the notes, the people, they're super indebted to you for what you did. And I think it's funny what a little bit of positivity and care can do for the world. In 30 minutes.
Yeah, it can go a long way, right? It can go a long way. And because of what you just said, that's why I now do it at 8:30 a.m.
Totally understand. I don't think less of you, Glenn. I completely get it. 2:30 in the morning is pretty darn early to do the old podcast.
It was out of control, man. I did that for 5 years at that time, though. So
So the automotive industry, Glenn, is always kind of experiencing an evolution in the market, right? I don't think the industry evolves that fast, but the market is evolving pretty fast. What are your psychic sensibilities tell you is coming in the future? If you have any predictions, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that there is a fairly high chance that late in 2025 or maybe even early 2026, I think there's a fairly high chance that we are going to experience a very COVID-like dynamic when it comes to our inventory. So tariffs go into place, which obviously the trade war is happening, right? So if tariffs go into place, the new car manufacturers are going to have to make some adjustments. When they make adjustments, that means they're going to be producing less vehicles. So we're going to have less new cars in the market. Add that to the fact that during COVID, there weren't very many new car vehicles being leased, which gives us, I think they said 2.4 million less used vehicles that are coming off lease in 2025 than should have been if there had not been COVID. So less used cars plus less new cars. And we have economic problems as far as affordability with new vehicles. And if they go up in price, that's going to be even bigger problem. So when you add all those things together, I think what it creates is we're going to have demand with short supply, especially in the 3 to 5 year old used vehicle market. And what that, of course, is going to do is it's going to drive used car values up, which this will be the second time in a 5-year span where I can buy a used car in March and have it be worth more in June, right? And which is such a rarity in this business. But then that also helps our customers that were in major negative equity situations because their cars will be worth more also. So now we can get rid of some more negative equity. The used car values are going up instead of down. We have less vehicles in circulation. So I think we, here in the next 3 to 6 to 9 months, might have a really lucrative situation for dealers across the country that know how to play the used car game.
Yeah, you know, the flip side of that is like the average car on the road right now is 13 years old. We might see that hit 15 or 16.
I agree. And they showed, I think it was last quarter of 2024, the average used vehicle that was purchased was 9 years old.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, not only the used car recon, but just the, you know, extended warranties and then service are going to be more and more important because the new car thing is not, it's probably not going to be a thing for a while, especially if those tariffs hit the German cars and, you know, and if he does all that. It's interesting.
It's
Christian and I were talking about
Wild West out there.
The tariffs are pretty funny because you see them talking about Canada and, on the Canadian side and the American side, there'll be these news announcers and they're like, whoa, this is going to be terrible. It's going to, you know, raise the price of a car $20,000. There's certain parts that go back and forth over the border 40 times. And you're like,
yeah,
you're talking about tariffs and not the fact that there's a part going, what part is going back and forth over the border? There shouldn't be a part that goes across the street 40 times. You're sending it across the border into 2025. Nobody thinks that's a problem. That's totally, the tariffs are the problem. Like, what? 40?
Dude, it's wild.
25 times? 2 times is too much. Like, what part are they talking about? What part is going crazy. Back and forth?
I was on News Nation. So News Nation reached out. They said, hey, Glenn, we want to talk to you about tariffs. I said, oh, shit, I better look this up. I said, I better look this up because I don't know what the heck is going on. So I look it up. I do some research, right? I get ready. I'm all prepped. I'm like, we actually pay. Like, I didn't even know. I thought, you know, other people would have to pay. I'm like, oh, there's
a quick education on what tariffs are,
so I can talk about it on News Nation.
To be the expert commentator.
Yeah.
You're going to your Encyclopedia Britannica.
Chat GPT, baby, Chat GPT. So I'm doing some research, and that's when I first saw that, Chris. I saw that like they were showing these average parts like would come into America, go to Canada, jump down to Mexico, like going back and forth across these borders multiple times. I'm like, this is this is crazy. I don't understand it. And then I go on News Nation. I'm like, here's what's going on. Here's why. Here's what you should do. In the back of my mind, I'm going, these are the wrong questions, folks. We're
treating the symptom, not the cause.
No doubt.
It's so funny.
Doubt. That's great.
Yeah, nobody ever said. I haven't heard anybody say that, and it makes no sense that all the stuff we can do, but we can't figure out how to make. Well, I don't know what the parts are, but let's just say it's a transmission or something. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, apparently we can catch a rocket ship that falls out of the sky with
let's not compare Detroit to Elon.
Right? But we can catch that with chopsticks, but we can't make a transmission right here in the United States. It's amazing.
It's so funny.
What a world we live in, dude. It's almost like this whole thing's like a movie. Everything that we're going through, it feels like just a weird, crazy movie. A lot of it just doesn't
Every
make any
day.
sense.
Yeah, it does.
It's
Yeah.
a very long
Yeah.
second
It
act.
feels like we're living in a simulation.
No doubt, man. No
Yeah.
doubt.
It's so funny. And at the same time, like you call a service department, you can't get through. Like it's all the same stuff. Like it's so crazy. Yeah.
One of our current clients, man, we went in store and walking around just looking at different stuff, and I end up talking to the service manager. He works there in the lane, and they were all the service advisors were telling me how everything goes through him. Like every ticket goes through him, everything goes through him. And I'm like, why does everything go through him? And they were like, well, he doesn't want to teach anybody how to do any of the things. So he just kind of does all the things. We run everything through him. I'm like, okay, well, that's a little odd. So what about like appointment scheduling and stuff? And they're like, oh, well, we have this like X time thing, but we don't use it. And I'm like, huh? And they're like, yeah. If a customer tries to set an appointment online, it just directs them to call us. And then we
Yeah,
call.
they shut it
and
off.
Then and then he's the one that has to set the appointment. It's the same guy that does all the other stuff. I'm like, and this is a dealership selling 120 cars a month. This is a multi-million-dollar establishment, and it's still just archaic as can be in the service lane. It's not.
Yeah.
That's
so funny. You fire that guy, and all of a sudden the business goes up 200%.
Right. Wait a minute. We can handle 60 cars a day?
The advisor's like, "Oh, we
This is
can do
crazy.
it. We can write." That's so funny. What's your prediction for the NFL season?
Oh my gosh, Chris.
Kansas
I don't know.
City Chiefs.
The Raiders are gonna suck again.
What about switching teams? Why don't you switch teams?
See, because when you're a victim of Raider fandom, I talked about switching teams once, and you know what my kids told me?
What?
Dad, what about all the gifts? Dude, I have decades worth of gifts that have been given to me. Signed footballs, helmets. I've got look, Chris, you think I'm playing? Look, it's covered up right now. Look. It's everywhere, man. It's everywhere. So the kids are like, what are you going to do with all the
Raiders
gifts?
Nation is
I'm
a
like,
real
"You have
thing,
point."
huh?
Yeah, so I don't know, man. The Raiders are going to suck. The Chiefs ran out of money. Apparently, they weren't able to pay anybody off this year.
He talks about any Raiders fan is going to talk about the Chiefs like they're the cartel,
Right.
Like Trump
fix is in.
Trump passed a bill that the Chiefs are a terrorist organization. That's what he's going to say.
That's right. That's right. But I don't know, man. The Eagles sure looked good last year. I will say that, man.
Oh,
I agree with
nuts.
that.
That team
Defense.
gelled. They really played well.
It's good. What are you going to talk about at our virtual meeting?
In the virtual meeting, we are going to talk about adaptation,
Ooh.
the necessity for leaders, especially in today's market that is so crazy and movie-esque, the ability to adapt and to adapt with certainty. Because I truly believe that an uncertain leader leads to uncertain results. Even if the leader doesn't know what the heck is going on, he has to present himself with certainty, and he has to be willing and able to adapt. So we're going to talk about adaptability being the key to success in 2025 and beyond.
That's awesome. I can't wait. Well, we love you, Glenn. We thank you so much for doing this, and we can't wait to see you at the meeting. It'll be a lot of fun. And I'll say a little prayer tonight before I go to bed for the Raiders and Pete Carroll. I have a connection with Pete, being a Seahawks fan. I think I can help. I think
right.
God can intervene.
Yeah, we need to, I don't wish Pete any ill will, but maybe he could just like get extra tired or something and decide to do something else.
You can't, Glenn, you can't wish Pete ill will. It'll kill him. He's just too old.
He's immune to it too, though. He's always so positive. Get used to that. The press conference where you just got blown out and he's selling it like it was a good thing. We appreciate it, and we'll see you real soon.
Hey, thank you guys. Great to see you.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of Service Job Revolution. We're uploading new stuff every day, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, call 8333-ASK-SDR and we'll answer your question on the show. That's 8333-ASK-SDR. For special deals on our books and training, head over to offers.chriscollinsinc.com. Now that's offers.chriscollinsinc.com. I'm Chris Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.